Think we're good to go.
Okay then. Okay. Welcome to the inaugural State of the College Conversation. I am really pleased that so many of you are able to join us today. I didn't know how many people would be actually ready for another Zoom meeting, but the participation is quite high, and so for that we're very pleased. It has been an incredible year for our college in terms of the challenges we face in navigating a worldwide pandemic, but it's also equally incredible in the ways in which our faculty, staff, students, and alumni address these challenges. To cover everything, I would take more hours than most of you want to spend in another Zoom call. So I'm going to focus on a few highlights from the past year. I also want to leave ample time for questions as part of this State of the College talk. And it is moderated by Associate Dean of Graduate Programs, Professor Chris Spann. But I welcome all of your questions about any aspect, as you know, and if you're familiar with our college, it's such a large, comprehensive college with a lot of research, teaching, and service, public engagement activities going on. So it's virtually impossible to cover everything. I will highlight a few things, but I want to say to you that feel free to ask questions about things that I do talk about, or things that I do not talk about. Let me begin with undergraduate education. While enrollment in teacher preparation programs throughout the state have been declining, our enrollments stabilized in 2016 and have steadily grown, with 11.2% freshman yield in fall of 2020. And that was the highest freshman class increase for any college on the UIUC campus in fall 2020. We know it's a challenge to sustain this kind of growth, but given the educator shortage in the state of Illinois and the nation, we're committed to expanding our undergraduate enrollment to meet critical state needs. Moreover, we have lots of good reasons to remain optimistic about the promise of our undergraduate programs. There is a high demand for our graduates. According to the UIUC 2019-2020 campus survey, 97% of our graduates secured their first destination job placement, the highest percent recorded for the 2019-2020 year, and we were tied with the Geese Business College and the School of Social Work. Overall, 88% of our 2019-2020 graduates are employed, the highest percent of all colleges on campus per the 2019-2020 survey. In addition to our traditionally excellent undergraduate programs in special education and curriculum and instruction, we're introducing new degree programs and certifications that will attract high quality students and also meet critical state needs. One of the new programs, and I will just highlight a couple of them. One of the new programs is Computer Science Plus Education. The CS Plus Education will be a Bachelor of Science degree with two concentrations, the Learning Sciences concentration and the Secondary Education concentration. After their first 2 years, students will branch off into one of the two concentrations. The Learning Sciences concentration provides students with the knowledge and skills to become designers and creators of innovative learning technologies. The Secondary Education concentration provides the coursework and field experiences for students to be licensed to teach computer science in grades 5 to 12. The Secondary Education concentration of the Computer Science Plus Education program will be the first undergraduate program leading to a teaching licensure in computer science in the state of Illinois. To the best of our knowledge, no education department or computer science department offers an explicit cross-disciplinary curriculum for undergraduate students. With expertise from top-ranked programs in computer science and education, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign is the ideal setting to be a model for a successful program in the teaching of computer science. We're also launching a teaching endorsement program in collaboration with the Department of Computer Science, the College of Education, as well as the Discovery Partners Institute. The College of Education and the Discovery Partners Institute, or DPI as we call it, are launching a teaching endorsement in computer science that will prepare more teachers to instruct on the subject. Governor Pritzker signed the HB 2170 into law, requiring school districts to offer at least one CS course in the 2022-2023 school year. The Illinois State Board of Education is expected to approve statewide standards for computer science later this year. We are introducing an endorsement program in the teaching of computer science, currently the only program available for teachers in the state of Illinois. Illinois has struggled to implement high quality and equitable computer science education across the state, in large part because of the lack of teachers equipped to teach computer science. With this new endorsement program, we will build the capacity for more schools across Illinois to effectively teach computer science and inspire the next generation of innovators. The Teaching Endorsement in Computer Science program also includes a partnership with the Chicago Public Schools, which is helping to identify and recruit teachers. Our CS Plus education degree and our Teaching Endorsement in Computer Science were created in partnership with the Granger College of Engineering's Computer Science Department. And this is a signal of the kind of cross-campus collaboration that is promising for new and innovative programs in the College of Education. Looking ahead with respect to our undergraduate program, we recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic required that we put travel on hold, but the study abroad program remains a jewel in our undergraduate experience. We're looking forward to relaunching our study program with the 2022 spring trip to Italy. This trip will also include participating teachers and alumni to make the experience an even richer one for our students. And I'd like to insert that I am both an alumni and a teacher, so that makes me doubly qualified for this trip. We anticipate significant more in-person learning in fall 21. Some people will call it the return to normal, others will call it return to a new normal. But we're looking forward to face-to-face instruction in the fall of 21. Graduate education enrollment and growth that we have, our graduate enrollment also remains strong, while graduate programs continue to be recognized for their excellence by our peers. U.S. News and World Report just released the annual graduate program rankings. All of our departments are ranked in the top 20 in the nation, and 3 of our departments, curriculum and instruction, special ed, and educational psychology, are ranked in the top 10. And the education administration program in the Department of Educational Policy, Organization, and Leadership is also ranked in the top 10. Our Doctoral of Education online degree program continues to grow at record pace, which has resulted in faculty revisiting enrollment caps and innovative approaches to program development and management. We have far exceeded our original goal of 12 to 15 new students per year for our online Doctorate of Education program. We currently have 340 EDD students in our online program that started in 2017. And our online EDM programs, master's degree programs, which are ranked number 3 in the nation, have approximately 261 students. Our on-campus and online graduate enrollment is relatively balanced, with online having a slight advantage in enrollment due to the accessibility of the online format. We will continue to provide graduate degrees and certificates in the online space as we define access and excellence to be more global, more inclusive, and more in line with the mission of the college. We will have exciting new opportunities to collaborate with colleges on campus to offer certificates in the online space. This is an area in which we expect, and this is from our Council of Deans meeting, that there would be significant campus investment as well as support and organizational changes to facilitate certificates in the online space. We are also developing new face-to-face degrees at the college level. Our Department of Educational Psychology introduced a new Master's of Science in Mental Health Counseling. It is a 2-year program, a face-to-face program that emphasizes training in psychological science and cultural diversity in practice across the lifespan. And this is going to meet the critical need at all levels. I am very much concerned about the mental health needs at our K-12 level. The reports that are coming out national reminding us daily that young people need more mental health, are going through a lot more stress. And so a program of this sort meets not only state, but national needs as well. Further, in recent years, we have added faculty strengths in our graduate and undergraduate programs across all academic units. In curriculum and instruction, we have strengthened our programs in bilingual, bicultural education, science education, social studies, and digital learning, an area which I think we're tops in the country in. Consequently, curriculum and instruction launched an online EDM program with 2 concentrations, one in bilingual, bicultural, and the other one in digital learning. In educational psychology, we've added strengths in quantitative analysis, evaluation, development, and counseling psychology. In educational policy studies, organization leadership, we have new strengths in education administration, higher education, and foundations. EPAL has also launched 3 new graduate certificates, one a certificate of specialization in cancer care education for underrepresented populations, another one a certificate of specialization in community college leadership and digital learning systems, and a third in a certificate of specialization in online teaching in higher education environments. And that goes with Coursera Master Track Certificate in Instructional Design as well. Special education has increased its faculty strength with some important new hires, with the recent Office of Special Education Programs, funding the department. With that funding, the department has significantly increased its PhD enrollment for fall 2020 compared to enrollment in the past few years. And for fall 2021, they look to continue an increase in new PhD students. We are a college with a lot of public engagement programs, and we are making new inroads in that area as well. The We See You public engagement program that started in the college and now has been adopted and embraced at the campus level is one of those programs that is engaging the local community in so many ways. We also planning to launch Freedom School this summer in connection with possibly Garden Hills, or one of our K-12 public schools in Champaign-Urbana. And that's going to be a very important public engagement development. We also have a lot of traditional programs that are continuing to do good work, like the Educational Justice program, the Center for the Study of Education in Small Urban Communities, the Forum on the Future of Public Education, the Office of Community College Research and Leadership, as well as the Center for the Cultural Responsive Evaluation and Assessment. So we have a lot of programs that are impacting not only the local community, but the state, and some of these programs are global in terms of their impact. I also want to say something about the With Illinois campaign. We reached our goal ahead of campaign deadline. And I want to take this moment to thank all of our alumni, friends, and faculty and staff who contributed to our With Illinois campaign. Our contributions make such a huge difference in the margins of excellence. I look forward to our return to face-to-face so we can have things like the Salute to Academic Achievement, where we see the impact of your support up close and in person. The smiles on the faces of our students and the chance to meet and thank their donors exemplifies the importance of your contributions to the College of Education. We also appreciate how those contributions have advanced and enhanced our ability to offer named chairs, endowed chairs, undergraduate scholarships, graduate scholarships, and so forth. This is very important for the college and the excellence that we enjoy nationally, the reputations that we have globally, closely tied to the contributions that you make, which actually make us a much stronger and a much better College of Education. I also want to take this time to say thank you to our staff, our faculty. The pandemic has been rough and there have been many obstacles, and I can't imagine how the college could have advanced without the support of an incredible staff that has been there with us every step of the way and it made it possible even for events like this to happen. It's a very different challenge when we are completely remote, and there's no way that we could even be half as good as we are without a very devoted and outstanding staff. So I want to say thank you to all the staff. You made a difference in a very important way, and we appreciate all that you've done for the college. Our faculty had to make a very sudden shift last March when they had to go to completely online. We all didn't know what was happening. I recall really getting ready to watch what I thought was going to be a great Illinois basketball team in the Big Ten tournament. I guess this year is proven to not be too high, but in any way, I was quite high. And all of a sudden, the television pictures came on, and I saw our team leaving. And then we were told that everything would go remote. And our faculty, many of them who had never taught online, had to shift to remote instruction. And you did a wonderful job. It has been really an incredible contribution that we've been able to carry on all of our degree program, all of our classes, all of our sections, working with our TAs to continue to offer an outstanding education in a very different format. And I appreciate the contributions that all of the faculty have made to do this. I also want to thank staff in advancement, because advancement is difficult at any time. It's quite a challenge, but to conduct advancement remotely is a very different kind of development. But we've done a good job. We have actually met with Illinois goals ahead of time, and that's due in part to staff has continued to be diligent, to work hard, and to advance the college in the face of the incredible challenges that are offered by the pandemic. Now with that, I probably left out a lot of things, but it also leaves a lot of time for questioning, and which I like. And we actually are set up to do this, and it's moderated by Chris Spann, who's professor in the Department of Educational Policy, Organization, and Leadership, and also our Associate Dean for graduate programs. And so with that, I invite your questions on any aspect of the college. There may be things that you find or you will have questions about that I talked about, but I also want to say that we're open to questions about any aspect of the college, even things that are not part of the things that have been highlighted at this point. So with that, we will go to the question and answers from our audience, which is quite large. Spann, are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your words, and definitely the sharing of all the remarkable developments that have happened in the College of Education thus far. I don't know if I'm supposed to turn my camera on, so I'm going to turn my camera on now as well. We do have some questions popping in the chat right now.
Okay.
A couple are kudos. One question is very specific in that sense, but I do ask that our colleagues, friends, alum who are listening on, students, please write them in, because we have a couple of people who are reading the Q&A to make sure that the all questions get asked. And just in case, if for some reason we run out of time with regards to questions, we will make note of the questions that are written in the chat and get a response back to you as soon as feasibly possible. So with that, I guess I will start with probably the first question that I see here in the chat, and it's actually related to my unit, so I don't want you to think I set this up, but it asks, will there be more staff hired in online programs and graduate student services in order to accommodate the rapidly growing programs?
Well, certainly we want to have sufficient staff to accommodate the programs. At the same time, we do have some control over caps and arrangement to try to make sure that the program do not outstrip the faculty that we have, and that we're able to have the budget to make to add additional staff as needed. But those two things are inseparable. You know, control of the size of the program, the caps that we need in place. At the same time, we want to be able to anticipate growth and is project growth, and then see what the needs are in terms of staff and faculty to accommodate. We don't want to be reactive. We don't want to have programs that will grow excessively and then say, oh my Lord, we need new faculty because we need new staff, because that then sort of does not allow the kind of planning and the vision that we need. So how we want to go about this is to envision the changes and to know what the trajectory is, and then the high staff and faculty in accordance to the growth that we anticipate.
Another question that has come in is there any indication about requiring vaccines in the fall? And will we be meeting in person in the fall?
I'm fairly confident, and the campus has not made an official announcement, but given the discussions in our Council of Deans meeting with the provost and the chancellor, I'm fairly confident that that our instruction in the fall will be mainly face-to-face. I don't want to say it will be exclusively face-to-face. There may be hybrid forms of instruction, and there may be individuals for various reasons that may be reluctant to take a risk or cannot take a risk, and then would either teach or work remotely. So it's going to be a combination, but by and large, most of our courses in the fall, our instruction will be mainly face-to-face. Now, what was the other part of that question? It was, about vaccinations. I don't know. I know Rutgers University has required all of their students to be vaccinated. We have not reached such a decision on our campus, and I don't know where we are on that, but I'm sure that our SHIELD team and our chancellor are discussing this. Now in Champaign, we know that anyone above the age of 16 can be vaccinated in Champaign County. So clearly the availability is there. I think the question is whether we would have a mandate. And at this point, we do not have a mandate.
Another question is, are there any plans for upgrading facilities, and how will the changes in format impact current and future classroom changes?
There are plans. We had plans to upgrade facilities before the pandemic started. And of course, the pandemic came out of nowhere, and it also resulted in slashes in the budget. Some things that were being planned in facilities and capital development at the campus level, as well as things like investment in growth. A lot of things that were on the docket had to be put on hold. But I'm sure we'll get back to an upgrade in facilities because of the things that we're trying to do, and the things and where we plan to go at a campus will require that. And in online format, in facilities. And we were working on that before the pandemic hit us. We were developing new places for online instruction. We were thinking about classroom upgrades in some places, and we'll continue to really survey the College of Education and think very seriously about where we need upgrades in order to carry out instruction as well as other services in the college. And so we'll get back to that pretty soon. I think we've gotten pretty good news about where we are as a campus and as a college. We've heard from, at least from Springfield and from the governor, that our budget is at the very least will remain flat and with no reductions. We also know that we've done a good job at the campus level of putting aside reserves for things like this pandemic. We learned a lot from the impasse that we suffered through for 2 or 3 years. And so we're in a very good shape, about the best shape we could be in at this point. I expect that we will go back to facilities upgrade in the 2021-2022 academic year.
That's outstanding, because there was a kind of a second question to that about the College of Education. They said they love the building, but it's in desperate need of an upgrade. So hopefully that's on the books there. Another question that has come in is, it says, given the pandemic has opened wide the question of online pedagogy and engagement, and we've seen the college education taking on different capacities and exploring different capacities in this regard. The question is, does this have any impact, this exploration of online programs in the pandemic? Does this have any impact on the strategic research directions that the college will be taking and prioritizing?
Does what have any impact on the strategic?
The pandemic and the opportunity to perhaps engage in these kinds of environments or teach in these kinds of environments?
I think in both cases. One thing we have done in the College of Education over the past year and continued into the spring, and I suspect into the fall, is that we've actually awarded research grants that look at the impact of the pandemic and the things that the pandemic has exposed in terms of inequities in our society, in terms of the harm that is perpetrated on certain communities and what we can do about that, the mental stress that is across the board. We have allocated funds and research grants to look at some of these problems. And I think that will continue. I think the issues of inequity, the systemic racism, and the other kinds of things that have been exposed by the pandemic will continue to be areas of research. I think the other thing that we've learned, and we actually are working on this, and I think the campus itself will be counting on the college to take the lead. I know they will be, because they're asking us to take a role. And that is that when we started into this last March, the thing that was uppermost in our mind was to get faculty prepared to teach online, since in many, I think less so in our college, we'd had more faculty teach online than most colleges, but across the campus, there was an urgent need to prepare, and that with these summer academies that were held, as some of you know, to help with that preparation. But in teaching my own course online, one thing I discovered, and what we are focused on now, is that we did not focus as much as we should on the cultivation of student engagement in online learning. And I think that has serious implication for the quality of instruction that we offer going forward. And I think we've all had in our classes some of those students who hit the mute button and turn off the video, and we have no idea what's going on. And then we have other students that are very active, they're asking questions. But what we want to look at is, how do we cultivate student engagement so that students who are engaged in remote online learning are having a quality of experience, getting the kind of instruction that they would get if they went face-to-face. And I think that is possible. In conversation with the provost, they've asked the college to take a lead, and I'm working with our director of online programs, Sangeeta, to get us to the cutting edge of this question, and to think about seminars and webinars and other kinds of academies, maybe summer academies, where we concentrate on how do we keep our students engaged. And that's a national problem, by the way. It's not just a College of Education problem. When you look across the country, the kinds of reports that are being conducted and the results that we're looking at, is that if we're going to use the online space, whether it's for Doctoral of Education programs or master's programs, eventually, as you know, in some parts of the world, like the UK, they have undergraduate degrees online. If we're going to use that online space to offer certificates, degree programs, quality programs, we're going to have to do a lot in the cultivation of student engagement to make sure that we don't have a kind of caste system where face-to-face has one kind of engagement and online has another that is quite far from what we would desire.
No, excellent. This question, we might ask a person helping us establish this online meeting, possibly answer this a little bit as well, but it asks, are there courses offered on integrated Google Classroom education and MS, I'm assuming Microsoft education tools for use by classroom teachers?
Is Brian on? Or
I can speak for the IT partners real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, this is Adam Rush from IT Partners.
Adam, thank
So
you.
we have some restrictions on what we can use according to campus rules, because the campus has to go through legal processes to make sure that all the licenses that are used by the different platforms are in sync with what we want to do. I know that one of the reasons why we currently don't use Google Classroom is because the university administration is not happy with the terms and conditions that Google wants to place on the way data is used and handled. And so until the university lawyers and Google's lawyers can hash that out, that's not going to be an option for us. If it is in the future, IT Partners will be on hand to help get that set up for our users. In the meanwhile, what we try to do is have our student teachers work with their school systems where they're being placed to get access to their version of Google Classrooms. So when there's a situation that a student teacher is working in Google Classrooms for a K-12 application, they can have access through the school system rather than a university.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Another question is a general one here. What is the Freedom School that you were referring to? And can you share a little more about that program and what are the learning outcomes?
Yes, I wish we had the sponsors, John Hale, on to answer that question, because he knows as much and more about the Freedom Schools. But in some ways, when we think back to the summer of 1964, when the Freedom Schools first started in Mississippi, and they were an opportunity for young people who were literally being either cheated out of an education or were not being given the best education in their schools to have a chance to attend Freedom Schools. And apparently John Hale is here. This is part of his research, things that he's studied. He's looked at the Mississippi, the Freedom Summer Schools. There's also legislation within the state for the sponsoring of Freedom Schools. So John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, so why don't you tell the audience completely what is a Freedom School and why we are engaged in the sponsoring of a Freedom School?
Yeah, so of course, just building upon what you said, Freedom Schools go back to the 1960s in Mississippi as a way for civil rights activists to train young people in the principles of the civil rights movement, but also to push policymakers forward and to enact more equitable policy. Marion Wright Edelman picked up this idea in 1990 and has since developed a national program of Freedom Schools, which reach nearly every state in the United States. You know, we operate about 200 Freedom School sites across the country each summer. It's a 6-week literacy program. Sorry, my kids in the background too. 6 weeks literacy program each summer. And we are engaging in this here in Champaign because the chancellor and other administrators have provided support for this type of engagement in reaching the community. We had a Freedom School which ended in 2011, so we're reinvigorating this program. So we're maintaining the civil rights tradition and also embarking upon a new community partnership that's hopefully longer lasting as a way to sort of maintain this tradition of enacting quality educational programming from the bottom up.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the Freedom School of John's children in the background. That was fantastic.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, it caught me off guard.
No, it's great.
They sound like they're going to Freedom Schools where you want them to or not.
They've been going every summer since they've been here. So yeah, they'll be there.
The next question that we have is, do you anticipate continued funding after we open around systemic oppression, community engagement? Essentially, what the chancellor has currently begun sponsoring.
Yes, that will continue. I'm on the steering committee for the campus. I know the campus will continue to do this, not just for 1 year. This will be recurrent investment and research and public engagement around these issues. But the college, which is doing this before this year and will continue after this year, because It is central to the mission of the work that we do as a college. So we will continue to promote and support research as well as public engagement around these issues going forward. We do have, we were headed in this direction before the pandemic. We had programs, both public engagement programs as well as research programs that looked at these issues. And we will continue to strengthen our programs in this area.
Excellent. Former colleague and a former student as well, Alan Phelps. He left for Wisconsin in 1990 when he says hello. But he has two questions.
Yeah.
The first is, what are the major revenue sources for the college these days? Annually, what percentage is state support, federal research funding, private research funding, tuition gifts? And I didn't know if you wanted to answer that first before I asked the second question.
Well, let me take a shot at that. These are more detailed budget questions, but when we look at state support, I think for our college, it's the highest level of state support, state subsidy of any college on campus. And so we have continued to be valued for the contributions that we make to state needs. I've always felt that a college of education, which offers teachers and principals and superintendents and other kinds of educators to the state, deserve this kind of support from the state. And we continue to get good support from the state when we compare our college to colleges across campus. Our state support as a university has decreased over years, and we get different figures. When we look at the benefits that we get in conjunction with operating budget, it tends to go near 30% or so. And if you subtract the benefits from operating budget, it drops down to the 20s or so. And so that's where we are. But we continue, our budget is pretty much the same as it has been for a long time. It is determined mainly by undergraduate tuition. We have certainly increased revenues from online programs. That's been important. We get revenues from grants and contracts. That's also important. And we get important revenues from our advancement, from our donors, our friends, and our alumni. And so the places that actually provide the resources to pay for the work that we do have been, steady state for a long time. And I think the newest thing probably in the College of Education and the revenues that we receive from online programs.
The second question is, what changes do you see going forward in the criteria for tenure?
Well, I think I think the standards for tenure, the merit standards, are likely to be more consistent and less consistent. I think what we are doing on campus and what we're doing in the college are several things. Campus recognize the impact of the pandemic on progress, and so they've created rollbacks that the faculty can get at request. I think everyone that has been requested from the College of Education has been approved. It also recognizes that research has changed by the pandemic. And you think about the College of Education, let's say a lot of your research was school-based, or in schools. And when schools shut down or did not allow visitors, and that certainly would affect the kind of research and force you to create alternative databases. Well, that's going to be part of the consideration going forward. I think the tenure standards will change, particularly with regard to public engagement and that kind of work. I think the standards, the letters that go out for external referees will indicate the impact of the pandemic. And so there will be some adjustment in terms of how we process things and the kind of expectations we put not only on the faculty, but on the other people engaged in the process, such as external reviewers. But we will still be looking at basically the same kinds of merits, the quality of research and teaching and service. I think that will be more consistent and less consistent, even as we make adjustments to recognize the impact of the pandemic.
And this question is along that same lines, but more specific, just a little bit. What impact has the pandemic had on the availability of grants and other research opportunities at the College of Education? And is this impacting the number of graduate students we are able to support?
It is impacting the number of graduate students we can support, but Graduate College has been very helpful and getting funds, and there will be even new funds that will go to graduate students as a consequence of the care package that was just the COVID-19 bill that was just passed. We have worked very hard to continue to support our graduate students, and I think we've done a pretty good job, and we will continue to do a good job of that. And we will be looking for the resources at the graduate college level within the college to make sure that the pandemic does not have an adverse impact on the ability of our graduate students to consider to continue their work and pursue their degrees. And so I think we'll come out okay. There may be some individual cases where we have to make adjustments, but overall, I expect the same kind of support for the graduate students that we provided pre-pandemic. And we intend to do that. We intend to provide that good support going forward as well.
I have another question here. It says, would you consider having online PhD programs for alumni who are out of the country, since online teaching is going to stay?
So I assume that this person is talking about a PhD in contradistinction to an EED, I assume.
I would as well. I'm not sure if they know about our EDD per se.
So let's assert that at the beginning that we already have a Doctorate of Education online. It's an EDD program. At this point, we do not have a PhD program online, but I will point out that there are other colleges within the university. I think computer science is one, and that do have PhDs online already. We have not developed a PhD online. Is it in question or out of the question? I think it's more in question that the campus is headed in this direction, and it's something that we will have to think about. So I would just remind everyone, in case the person asking the question didn't know, we do have a Doctorate of Education and EDD online. At this point, we do not have a PhD online, but that remains a question as to whether we will also have a PhD online.
Another question specific to graduate students here is, how is the college planning to continue funding research and teaching assistantships for in-person doctoral students given pandemic budget cuts?
Well, we don't have, we've not seen the kind of cuts that would make it less feasible for us to support graduate students, whether they are research assistants or teaching assistants. We intend to continue that support. A lot of research, RAs as we call them, research assistants, are tied to grants and contracts. We are doing okay in that area. We've gotten some new funding in some places, and we'll continue to submit and get new funding. So I don't expect any significant drop off in our support of graduate students, either as RAs or TAs.
Another question is, please share what impact the pandemic has had on the Summer Research Opportunity Program and other similar kinds of programs that are designed to recruit underrepresented scholars to doctoral programs at Illinois. Are measures in place to reverse any negative impacts, if any?
Well, I think it has an impact because they have been, and they face-to-face programs. I know another part of that was the SBI program, or the Summer Institute for potential doctoral students as well. One that we actually continued online this past summer. But I guess I would say that if there's an impact, it would be in the short run, because at least by summer of 2022, I would expect those programs to be operating full and face-to-face. I think summer 2020 and 21 cutbacks, but these are kind of cutbacks that we can make up for in the future by simply expanding the size of the programs and get more students and faculty members into the program. to make sure we continue the pipeline of preparing underrepresented students for graduate study and research.
Another question is, how is the college planning to continue or greater promote international collaboration after COVID-19?
Yes, I don't know if Allison Witt is online, but she has taken the leadership in the college to make sure that we continue to operate our programs to enroll our international students and to continue what is really a very robust program with international. I think our college was at one point ranked #1 in the number of us in the students that study abroad. We've always been a university with a lot of international students, our colleges included. I think we look at the size of our graduate program on the Urbana campus with about 10,000 or more graduate students, with about 40% of them being international. And the one thing that we see in the increases in graduate enrollment, the increases have been in online programs. That's where the greatest increases have been. And we've seen this within our college as well. So a lot of, more and more international students will be enrolled in our online degree and certificate programs. And the other thing I think that will take hold much stronger as we go forward is that certificates in the online space are going to become increasingly important with each passing year. We already done a good job in the college. There are a lot of new certificates online in CNI and EPAL and elsewhere. And we'll continue to collaborate with other colleges across campus to think about certificate program that will enroll a lot more of our international students. I see Allison Witt is with us.
Yes.
You want to give us a state of the art of our international programs?
Well, I think you did a good job. You've already done it. We're planning to restart study abroad in the spring of 2022, barring any other unforeseen delays. And we are working constantly. In fact, I've already been on 2 international calls this morning with our international partners to think about how we can take this time to sort of revise and deepen even our commitments internationally. So we're really working closely with our international partners, make sure that it's not just study abroad, but that it's research, that it's even some course sharing ideas. And then of course, as Dean Anderson mentioned, to use our certificate programs going forward to see if we can't even connect some of our degree programs. So there's a lot happening in international right now, and but it's all happening on Zoom. We're looking forward to getting back on airplanes and seeing students actually arrive to campus. We do expect to have some international students coming to campus actually in the fall, and that will be wonderful. And then hopefully we can send our students out in the spring and get the physical exchange going, just as we've been doing with Zoom.
Thank you, Allison.
I was also going to say one of our alum and our colleague, Vice Provost Mabokela, is also on the call as in the state of the college.
Can she hear us?
Can she be transferred to a speaking role, Adam? It's Retu Mabokela.
Could you spell that real quick? REITUMETSC. And then last name is, you got her.
Yeah, okay. So can you hear me, Rita? She's muted.
So she may be listening, but unable to mute.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Oh, no.
She was just unmuted for a second, because I would like for her to sort of share with everyone the future of this campus around certificate programs and the international impact that they might have. So we could come back to that question if we need to take another question while.
Sure. Another question is, what areas of expertise of teachers are most needed in Illinois now?
Oh, we know that, there's a shortage across the board, but in some areas like special education, the shortage is more severe. We know in terms of what we want to do as a state, like the teaching of computer science, the shortage is extremely severe. In fact, we don't really have certification programs or endorsement programs that can begin to equip the state with the quality of teachers that we need to have outstanding teachers of computer science. That's an area. Science and math and those fields have always had a shortage, and they continue to be short. But I think what we're seeing now is a shortage of educators across the board. And we say educators as opposed to teachers because there's not only a teacher shortage, but when it comes to other educators, principal superintendents as well. So there's an educators shortage. But in the field of teaching, there are areas like special education, teaching of computer science, science and math, bilingual education, bilingual by culture is another area where there's a severe shortage, and that's a need not only for the state of Illinois, but also the nation. When there was a report that came out of Rice University about English learners becoming long-time learners, and that has increased by 90% in the state of Texas, which speaks to the ineffectiveness of programs at the K-12 level and bilingual bicultural education as well. So there are shortages, and fortunately, as a College of Education, we are quite prepared to meet these shortages with very high quality teachers. We have good programs in all of these areas, and we have developed programs. We actually waiting on approval and support from Illinois State Board of Education and from other state organizations so that we can in earnest begin to train teachers for the teaching, or teaching in areas like computer science. Say, Ritu can't unmute, can she?
I think she should be able to unmute herself. I promoted her to a panelist.
Excellent. I was going to say I couldn't unmute for a second there either.
Okay.
I don't know if Ritu, are you able to unmute? I don't know if she can or can't, but I can speak a little bit to that, Anderson, if you want, because I've been working closely in the college with Ritu on some of these matters.
Yeah, because we've had really important discussions in the Council of Deans meeting, and those discussions have been led by Ritu about partnerships with institutions globally. There have been changes in places like India and other places that will create new opportunities for partnerships around certificate programs. And it'll be different. I mean, normally we think of whether it's a degree or certificate that you get it from one institution. What is opening up on the global stage is the opportunity to partner with other institutions internationally, where something like a certificate could be collaborated with not just across campus, but with institutions across the world, and possibly with some degree programs as well. So go ahead and say a few words about it. We have some minutes left, so go ahead.
No, you summarized it well. Part of the larger initiative that Chancellor Jones and the campus is attempting to lead is what they're calling enhancing greater partnerships and collaborations with the global South. And so thinking of the hemisphere that you just talked about with regards to India, Africa, South America, and really building additional opportunities for growth and capacity building as we move forward. So many of these things predated the pandemic, but they'll definitely be post-pandemic as well.
I think Ritu is unmuted. Can you hear me, Ritu?
I can hear you, Doc.
Okay. I was sharing with the audience where the campus is thinking, what's its thinking and where we might be headed in terms of certificates and other kinds of offerings on the international scale, and how that's changing in terms of possible partnerships with other institutions on the globe.
Yes, the university is exploring and intentionally identifying opportunities for engagement, particularly with the Global South. As you know, we have a very strong profile of international engagement that with the majority of our current engagement, if you were to look at, for example, the partnerships that we have, the student mobility programs that we have, centered around Asia mostly and Europe. If you look at any of the UN data, there's a real projected African youth surge in the next 30 to 50 years, and a real recognition that the majority of school age and college age students are going to come from the African continent. To a modest extent, Latin America and maybe parts of Asia, but even in Latin America and parts of Asia, we're already beginning to see a slowing down and a decline. With this context, taking this context into account, the university has been identifying strategic partners where we could engage in the Global South, particularly on the African continent. And some of the issues that have been identified, so as part of this process, we have engaged with university leaders across a number of African universities. And some of the issues that have been identified as critical need by African leaders center around the need to skill, reskill, provide training and development for, and I'm going to maybe limit my remarks to the higher education sector, but for faculty members, for staff, for academic leaders. So in identifying potential opportunities, we're thinking about ways in which we can leverage the strength that we have, particularly in virtual and online programs, to enhance our impact in some of these regions of the world. We are having conversations to explore a range of possible offerings, ranging from your short-term non-degree offerings to certificates, to fully online, perhaps, or hybrid academic programs. So over the next, right now, we are in the process of developing a campus globalization strategy. And as part of that discussion and that document, we will specifically highlight some very intentional opportunities that we could explore on the African continent. We have been having these conversations not only with the Chancellor and the Provost, but most recently with the Council of Deans. And this is a conversation where that we will continue, with the hope that when we present the first draft of our global strategy, we'll be able to identify very concrete and tangible ways in which we can engage on the African continent.
Okay, thank you very much. And there will be opportunities for the College of Education as part of this program. And we are already and have launched certificates this year. And we have programs even in Coursera where we have a certificate. So we're looking forward to the global participation in the online space. And we think we have a lot to offer. And we certainly want to be a partner as the campus move forward in this area.
Dean Anderson, I know we are coming to the close of our hour, but there is one more question in the chat.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you could spend a little time answering it. The question is, now that with Illinois' goals having been met, what will be next, the next advancement goals in the College of Education in that regard?
Well, I think, those goals are always set at a certain standard. And we are very pleased and very proud to have met the goal, but we will keep going forward because we are quite self-conscious of areas in which we actually need support. One of the main initiatives or part of the mission that I have emphasized from the beginning of my deanship is endowment of scholarships for undergraduates. I think that is critically important. I think in order for the nation as well as for the state to meet the educator shortage, to meet the need, we're going to have to do something on the preparation side. And we can't control the salaries that teachers get, which are low, and makes it even more difficult for them to borrow money as undergraduates as they go through their programs. We can decrease the cost of preparation with scholarships and other kinds of support. And I don't know if this infrastructure bill will go through, but it's projected or predicted that if they forgive loans up to $50,000, that would impact or wipe out the debt of about 33 million persons who incurred debt going through college. But what we want to do on our end is to have more and more endowed scholarships. We also need, in terms of endowed professorships, to attract high quality people to the College of Education at the senior level. When I think about the hiring we've done over the past so many years, they've been mainly at the assistant professor level. We've got a lot of bright and talented assistant professors into the college, but we also need for their mentorship and for leadership roles and assignments on committees and so forth, full professors who are able to do those and assume those roles as well. So we do need to have the kind of support where we can attract very high quality people to our college. And yes, we've met our with Illinois goals, but we haven't met the long-term goals of the college, and we will continue to work very hard to meet those goals.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I think, I don't think there's a better way to end is to end this way and saying that we've accomplished much, but there's still much to be accomplished.
Yes.
And so with that, I want to give you the opportunity to thank our colleagues.
Yes, we want to thank the people, that showed up for all the time or part of the time. I'm really pleased that you could take time out of your schedule to be a part of this State of the College conversation. Thanks also to the contributions that different individuals made. As I said in the beginning, we have a very comprehensive college and we're doing a lot of great things. To highlight a few things is not to take attention away from the many wonderful things that are going on, and to recognize that it takes a whole lot of people to explain different aspects of the college, from international to online to other kinds of questions. And thank all the individuals who have helped us to make this a productive conversation.
Thank you.
All right.
Everyone enjoy their day.
Yes, have a good weekend.